friends, I'm Laura, and welcome to my podcast, Her Journey Towards Change. This is a faith-based life coaching podcast for women who, like me, are on a journey to live the best life possible. And then something happens, something unforeseen, and everything changes. Life feels foreign and you feel stuck. And it's difficult to move forward, and reaching out can be hard, right? Believe me, I know. If this is you, this podcast is for you. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I know who does. God wants more for us, for you and for me. You were created to live your best life. So I hope you will go on this journey with me to a more positive perspective and take those hard steps together through her journey towards change. Together, let's break through the barriers which are holding us back from achieving what God has called us to be. So let's go, and I hope you will go on this journey with me. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. It is Tuesday and you are listening to Her Journey Towards Change, and today is Tuesday and it's one of the episodes of Tuesday's Talk. And today my guest is Abi Partridge, and I'll just go ahead and read her bio and then we will get on with meeting her. Abi is a book designer and a publisher of Iola Bookazine. She specializes in self-published books, magazines, and author resources. Over 15 years, she has produced and designed work for Oxford Psychologists Press and the Pear Tree Design, Just Fabrics, Oxfordshire County Council, and Iola Bookazine. She was mentored by designer for British Vogue magazine, Peter Jones. She is an avid reader of books, drinks coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon, and takes photos like if they are going out of fashion. And I'll tell you what, I love taking pictures of photos of flowers myself. It's like an addiction.
Yeah.
So I want to go ahead and bring her on, and we will get to know her. How are you doing, Abi?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are all the way from the UK.
I am, yes.
So right now it is a little after 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. What time is it there?
It's just after 6 in the evening.
In the evening.
Yeah.
So tell us about where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm I live in the Oxfordshire Cotswolds, which is, I live in a town which is on the edge of the city of Oxford. If you might have heard of Oxford because it's a famous university.
Yeah.
And the Cotswolds is a sort of an area that's quite well known because it has pretty chocolate box-looking cottages and rolling fields. So I sort of live on the outskirts of the Cotswolds area too.
It sounds beautiful. I mean, I can just imagine. I would love to go there sometime.
Yeah.
So what do you do with your free time when you're not designing book covers?
Yeah, well, I like to get out, go for walks in the countryside around and take photos of flowers.
Yeah.
And pretty Cotswold stone houses because I don't live in one. But yeah, I'm a bit of a beauty hunter, I suppose, beauty seeker. So I often like going out for walks with friends, and read books, movies, music. Yeah.
So you're a mom, or should I say mum? Is that how you say it?
I am a mum. Yeah, that's how I say it. Yeah, I am a mum. I've got three children. One's just gone off to university, a 16-year-old and a 11-year-old.
Oh wow, you have your hands full.
Yeah, well, yeah. Although obviously, with one being away at uni most of the time, it's a little bit less now, which is interesting.
How does that feel to have one away?
Oh, it's weird. It's really weird. I miss him, But it's good too, actually. Because
Yes.
it's good for him, and he's a bit more independent, and kind of needed that, especially after we were in lockdown in the summer in the UK. So he'd had his last sort of set of exams cancelled, so he didn't really have anything to do for quite a few months, and he was just sitting around at home. So it was so good for him to get off in September to uni. Yeah.
So I have looked over a lot of your website and your bio, and I find your work very interesting. How did you get into this type of work or the niche that you're in, and what led you to it? What inspired you to get into this?
I think growing up, I was always making little magazines and writing
Yes.
and reading. English was always my favourite subject at school, and I ended up going to study English and publishing at university in Oxford. Not at the university, but there's another university, the famous university. There's another university, and they because Oxford actually is. Or it was, I'm not sure if it still is actually, but it was the second largest publishing centre in the UK. It had the most amount of publishing companies after London. And they had a really good university course, degree course at Oxford. So I did that and ended up staying in the area and working within the sort of publishing arena in this area. Started in production, doing sort of print buying and page design and layout. Always had a bit of a passion for that combination of pictures and words, you know, and I loved the art behind typography. And just sort of, I worked for a design agency that did sort of textbook design for the university press, and worked and sort of BBC magazine design. And then went, I did have a company at one point with my husband. We did lots of design, corporate design, marketing, material design, really. And then children, and I've kind of dabbled in bits and bobs whilst trying to be a mum as well. And then and then coming back into it a bit more now, I suppose. And for the last 5 years, but more, maybe six or 7 years, I suppose. It's a different sort of design world in terms of there's so much more digital these days. It's I love the whole. I started writing online and loved it because it was a bit like putting a magazine together, because you'd put the images together and you put words together, and I love that whole sort of side of it. And yeah, and then long story short, I suppose, decided to do Iola Bookazine. I was a member of Hope Writers, and that really helped me with writing for a reader and all of that. And
well, I've seen some of your work, and it's beautiful. What do you specifically do in this line of work? Like, what does a typical work day look like for you?
Well, I've since the beginning of last year, I was actually furloughed from my job, so I'm just beginning to start to pick up more freelance kind of work outside of before I was working in a company and doing a lot of design for their website and a lot of sort of writing and content for their website. So now I'm building out a new course, which is quite exciting and a bit of a learning curve for me. To help people design their book covers. I've had a lot of feedback from people that have been involved with Iola and really enjoyed it, and realized that that's something that I can help people with, is communicating through images and words well. So I'm starting to offer services, book design services, and a course and continuing to do Iola as well.
So tell me about what Iola is. Explain what that is for those that are listening that do not know.
I think it started out as a magazine, and I've kind of changed it a little bit to calling it a bookazine, because I think it's just that little. It's almost like a hybrid of book and magazine. So the articles generally are from writers, from women writers that are writing for the Iola reader, who is she's someone who loves to have some time off with something good to read that refreshes her mind and restores her soul. And it's kind of based on me, I suppose, a few years ago, where I'd go to a coffee shop and I wanted a magazine to read, but often the magazines on the shelves, they would just make me feel like I wasn't enough.
Yes.
I didn't have enough money. I didn't have enough. I wasn't beautiful enough, to wear the fashion, and didn't have enough money to make my house look amazing. And it never quite satisfied. And they're always trying to sell you something.
Yes.
So this, it's faith-based. So, ultimately it points the reader towards God, and finding, restoring our souls towards God, but also within that, exploring how he does refresh our soul through various different ways, through beauty, through creativity, through art, through music, and that's the vision, really, I suppose, behind it.
How did you come up with the name Iola?
Yes. I was looking. I wanted a girl's name, because lots of magazines start out with have had girls' names as the title, and well, actually, I didn't. I actually initially had it was based upon a couple of verses about the Lord renewing the verse in Romans on be renewed by your renewing of your mind.
Yes.
So I was looking for I was thinking, renew. Well, that word. It's a bit over familiar for people. Restore. Those kinds of words have been used quite a lot. Yeah. So I thought, I wonder actually if there's a girl's name that has a meaning, and that it's similar to restore and renew. So I did a bit of research, and I came across this name, Iola, and I think it means it has two meanings. It has a Welsh meaning, which is violet dawn, which I thought, dawn, it's a new dawn.
Yes.
And then it's a Greek name, which the Greek name means. Let me remember.
Okay.
It means valued by the Lord.
What's it
so
mean?
I thought, valued by the Lord.
Okay.
So
that is awesome. I love Iola. So it is a magazine / book, which you call Bookazine.
We call it a bookazine because it's also available on Amazon. So it's more than just a sort of. It has a higher quality level maybe than a magazine and hopefully a longer shelf life, in that the articles are a bit more in depth, a bit longer, and it can sit on your coffee table for. Yes. And it's not for a season, really. It's not a monthly. It's not dated, no. I mean, they're seasonally situated, which I tried to make them sort of situated within a season. But they're not dated, so they're still, they have a long.
Read any time.
Yeah. So, and they're not for particularly 1 year or 1 month.
And your ideal reader is women.
Yeah, Christian women. I mean, sort of women that need a break from busy life, really, and need to be able to sit down, put their feet up, and actually find real rest that is actually refreshing for their soul and for their mind, not just for their body, I suppose. Yeah.
That sounds great. So I know a great book cover is one of the best selling tools for an author to sell their book. What is it that you could tell authors out there that are writing a book? What are some things you could tell them that they might need to know when it comes to getting ready to design their book cover?
Sure. I think it is. I mean, obviously, it depends upon whether it's an ebook or a print book to start with, because there are differences between the two, and in terms of the way that you would set it up as a designer, and the type of file that you would use, I suppose. I think typography is really important. That there's a whole history behind fonts, and actually that is a whole design element in itself. And you can do a lot. You can say a lot with pictures, and even within the font choice that you make. And I think a book cover is really important, not just because purely because a lot of the time people that want to buy your book will make a really quick decision as to whether that book is for them or not. So there's things that you can do that will really show that you know what you're talking about in your book. Your book has got something within it that is worth reading, you know. And I think a cover is a really good way to do that.
Well, the cover is the very first thing that people see. So
Exactly.
it catches, I mean, what's the saying? Don't judge a book by its cover, but yet
We do.
first thing you see. So that is what you want people to see and relate to, right?
Yeah,
When they see your book.
exactly. Yeah.
Font. I have this thing with fonts. Do you have a, I mean, I am like, I like to, I think it's like the calligraphy fonts, those
Oh,
that look like calligraphy. Those are ones that catch my eye the most. Do you have a particular one that you seem to go towards that you like the most? I know it's a weird question.
there are so many, and more so these days, especially with digital fonts being designed all the time. A lot of designers are designing their own fonts, and especially sort of calligraphy ones. I think there's a difference between calligraphy and brush script fonts. So calligraphy often it can be it can be very stylized. So it can be with calligraphy, you can often have a sort of an old style calligraphy, which looks like it's been written with a calligraphy
The pen.
pen. Yeah, which I've practiced with. But you can also still do modern calligraphy with a calligraphy pen too, which is a bit less formalized. But sometimes people, when they say calligraphy, they might mean brush script, which looks like it's written with a paintbrush even. I don't have a particular favorite one.
Okay, because you see so many, right?
And it depends. It depends again what you're using it for, and what you're often pairing it with too. And calligraphy, all brushstroke ones are really good pairing fonts for something that might look a bit more traditional. Definitely.
Now, your bookazine, Iola,
Yeah.
that is for mainly women readers. I noticed that you also have what is a playlist.
Yeah.
Can you explain what the playlist is all about?
Yeah. I mean, really, it's an idea that I had just to put a playlist together to go with each issue. Partly, initially, I think the first one I might have done it to sort of perhaps give a reader a sort of a feel for what reading the issue might be like. So I try and I curate. Although we have had someone else do playlists before too, but normally the main one for the issue. I curate it from songs that I feel really go with the content of the magazine, but also we have one word. The bookazine has a one-word theme for each issue. So then the writers will draw from that to write.
For instance, on your last issue, what was the one word?
Yeah, it was change. The last issue, it was change. I thought you'd like that one.
Oh, yes. I wish I would have found you before now. Yes, I am going to definitely have to submit something for your magazine.
The next one's fresh, but yeah, the current one that's done is change, and so the songs are just sort of, they go with a lot of the articles, some of the themes that are being brought out, but also to try and kind of create an atmosphere so that a reader could read it whilst having music on in the background if they wanted to.
That's very inspirational. I mean, I love that. I do. That you can sit there with your tea or your coffee, with your feet up, listening to the playlist that goes along with the theme of Iola, which I love the name of your bookazine, your magazine / a book. I love that. This whole concept just is so awesome. If there was one thing that you could share with, let the listeners know when it comes to your message, your passion or your purpose, and what words of wisdom could you give them when it comes to how you found your passion and purpose, and what is it that they might be able to do? Not that I'm asking you to give advice, because I know it'll be different for everybody, but sometimes some people are stuck out there and they just do not know. They know they have talent, they know they have interests, they know they have a purpose, but they don't know what it is. And your whole genre here and your creativity, what could you say to the listeners to encourage them to move forward in their passion and purpose?
Yeah, I think I've come from a place of being quite stuck. I've had I had postnatal depression, and also a business failed at one point. And, especially after having children, your confidence can get really knocked, I think. And sometimes those things that you used to do, perhaps as a job or for pleasure, you have to kind of adapt a little bit. I had to adapt what I did. Obviously, I designed for print, and the world moved on a little bit technology-wise, so a bit of skill building to do. But one thing that really helped me was to go back to initially what made me come alive creatively. And looking back over my childhood, I could see that the magazine was such a strong thread. I used to make little ones for my friends when I was a child, and then church youth group, we made one. We made some literally by using the photocopier in the church office, and then I designed one again at university, and I think at the back of my mind it was a dream that I'd always thought was not accessible for me. I thought, one of my aunts, actually, I did some work experience. She organised some work experience for me when I was about 16 or 17, and she worked in advertising, and I went to the offices of some magazines in London and talked to various people, and they really put me off. Magazines, and I was sort of like, oh, that's what I really wanted to do. But I think looking back at all the threads of stuff that I've done, and being able to draw upon skills that I had previously, but maybe using them on my own and in my own way, it's a great time to. We have access to technology. We have access to the internet. We can do a lot more than then even when I first started out, when I first left uni, I couldn't have done what I'm doing now. So I think just some hope really is just to hang on in there and that look back as to what makes you feel like you have something to offer and what the world needs, because well, the world needs art and it needs beauty and it needs people that come alive to what they're made to do, what's in them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the best time ever is now, if any.
Absolutely.
Do you take so you do take submissions for your publication?
Yes.
And what
yes.
do the writers need to know if they want to submit for your Iola?
Yeah. Well, there's a loads of detail on the site that you can for submissions. We have 2 issues coming out this year. The first one, by the time this podcast comes out, the first one might have closed.
How often does it come out? How often does?
Well, last year we did 2 issues. This year we're doing 2 issues. So this one will be out. The first one this year will be out June, July time, and the second one we're planning for November, December time for the second one.
So is there a deadline for that one to get something in?
The deadline will be end of June for the November, December issue, which has the one with theme of joy.
Joy? Okay.
Joy.
And do they go to your website for all the things that they do for that submission?
Yes, avidpartridge.co.uk, and if you look at the drop downs on Iola, the submissions page. Okay. There's also at the moment there will be a bit later on, there'll be a mood board on Pinterest as well, so you can kind of get an idea visually of what the kind of color themes we're going for and what it's going to look like, and the kind of inspiration board really that might help someone know what to write. So with the fresh, also I do quite a bit of stuff on Instagram. So I've done a bit of a video promo for the fresh issue at the moment, just to kind of give an idea of what the reader will be wanting from Iola within June, July time this year. Okay. I mean, it's quite Northern Hemisphere based, I'm afraid, but yeah.
If I would want to submit something, what are the different types of articles that you're looking for?
Yeah, there's mainly story-led articles, so often sort of personal essays on perhaps somewhere where you've got stuck, maybe somewhere where you felt not fresh, for example, and one way that you have found to be fresh or wanting a refresh in your life, I suppose. This one, it's sort of the reader is, wanting to feel refreshed by a rest period in June and July, and they might be going away on holiday, so they want something to read that's going to make them ready and rejuvenated to go back into their life. So we've got lots of sort of fresh air imagery, laundry's on the line, the windows are open, life is in front of her. She's feeling refreshed from reading Iola. So that's kind of the idea behind fresh.
You mentioned that you have a course that you're offering. Can you tell us about the course?
Yes, it's glossy. Well, I've called it glossy. Yes. And it's a course in a group for designing your book, front cover for your book, or booklet or magazine. I mean, it can be mainly sort of for a self-published book. So
to help them.
It's to help them, yes. So
they're published. Okay.
Yeah, so it's to walk to somebody, because sometimes creatives, writers, they're quite precious about their art and their words, and they want to do their, and no one knows their book better than them. So they know how to match the visual to the words, I suppose. So it's to give more design tools and information for someone that wants to do their own book cover, but perhaps needs a bit of extra help design-wise as to how to go about that. So it covers how to define the book, how to structure the cover with imagery, typography, alignment, what specifically to highlight, what kind of colours to choose and how to choose them, what colours mean, impact, how to bring it all together and actually make it look professional, so that it looks, like a professional designer has done it, and how it's formatted specifically for the output that you're doing with it.
So how is this like a few weeks that it takes to do this course?
Yeah, it's 5 weeks, so it's going to be 5 weeks, so live training.
It's
And
live?
then live training from me, yeah.
Okay.
And literally walking, we'll do one bit at a time, and also live question and answer calls as well. So
that's awesome. How long do they each last? Each
the course, I mean, I'm saying it's new, so I'm saying at the moment, 5 hours, so an hour at a time. So basically you can learn that section, go away and do what you need to do,
right.
Come back, ask your questions, and that kind of format. And I've got some other like Canva templates as well within that you could use for extra resources if you wanted, for a workbook or a study guide, those kinds of things.
Okay. And all of this they can find on your website as well?
Yeah, it's on the website, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. With all the creativity that we've talked about, everything that goes into it, and you're faith-based, what is it that you think, say, for instance, there is someone out there that is stuck. They want to move forward in whether it's writing their book or starting a blog or doing their book cover, whatever it is that they are interested in doing. What is it that you could share with them when it comes to your faith-based publications? Because you say your magazine is faith-based.
Yeah.
What is it that you could share of how God has moved you in this direction?
That's interesting. I think just spending time with him, and figuring out what he's put in me, that makes me sense his presence. I know that I feel within me, the thing that connects within me to God is him as a creator and as an artist. And so seeing his art in creation,
that's beautiful.
that just, that speaks to me, partly because I just feel drawn to do that myself in a small way. But that's how I can see God's character in me. It says we're made in the image of God, and that's how I see him in me, is as a he's put that little bit of creativity in me, and I want, and part of that is my worship too. Part of expressing my creativity and connecting with who he is. It's what's that famous, is it the Westminster Catechism that says the glory of God is his people fully alive, or something like that. That could be completely misquoted there. But yeah, I think that, yeah, that's
Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I have to say I really enjoy your accent. I always want to learn to talk like that, but I'll never do it.
You'll have to move here.
Listening to you talk. So, where can everybody find you? You have a website. Are you on
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram and?
Yes, I mean, I'm on Instagram mainly as Abi Partridge Design,
Okay.
and my website's abipartridge.co.uk. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
and then I own a.
I have really enjoyed this conversation,
Oh, me too. Thank you for
and
having me.
I will definitely check into that website, and I will try to submit something for that
Oh, that would
Iola
be
magazine. I would love that. And
great.
you also now your course, you can start this course at any time, right? Or is there
Um,
a timeline for it?
there is a timeline initially, and then I'll hopefully have a self-paced one later in
Okay.
the year. So I mean, I'm hoping to start. I mean, I don't know when this podcast definitely will be out, but there'll be one starting at some point throughout the year. So, or by then I might have a self-paced one as well. So,
Okay. Now, do you want to go ahead and share how much that is, or do you want them to look on your website for that?
yeah, I mean, you can look on the website, but it's about at the moment it's at £197 for the
Okay.
5-week course. I mean, they also offer services for if you came direct to me, just to work with me to do the book, me to do it all, and the interior, then it's obviously quite a lot more.
Yes.
So this is a way to make it a bit more accessible.
Okay. Well, I've enjoyed this. You've been very enlightening to talk to, and I know the listeners out there have, especially those that are writing and wanting to publish a book. I know that they um, will learn a lot from this. So I'm hoping to bring you back again in the
Oh,
future.
that'd be amazing.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
It's been so fun.
Thank you, and you have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.